Welcome to 2 Cents Sharp.
We're a couple of trumpet players who sort through the best and worst of the online trumpet community, so you don't have to.
Then we give our 2 cents. Today's episode is the second of 3 full interview releases. These interviews round out our first episode cycle, and during the next couple of weeks we'll be preparing for our next cycle. This week's interview is with Morgan Bates, who we met in episode 2, Brass Holes.
Morgan Bates holds positions as second trumpet of the Oregon Mozart Players, third trumpet with the Rogue Valley Symphony, and is a member of the Eugene Difficult Music Ensemble, a new music ensemble based out of Eugene, Oregon. A recent graduate of the University of Oregon, Morgan Bates holds dual master's degrees in trumpet performance and musicology, along with a women's gender and sexuality studies graduate certificate. During their time at UO, Morgan held the GE role of second trumpet with the Oregon Brass Quintet, UO's own faculty brass quintet, while teaching undergraduate trumpet lessons and the trumpet technique class in the education curriculum. Morgan is also a musicologist and ethnomusicologist. Their work focuses on gender and queer perspectives in music making, from Handel operas to Janelle Monáe's emotion pictures. A passionate teacher, Morgan runs a private trumpet studio and has counseled and taught young trumpet players and artists around the country, notably at Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, where they also served as the principal staff trumpeter for 4 years. Morgan currently serves as the Education and Community Outreach Coordinator, Librarian, and Stage Manager for the Oregon Mozart Players, and is a full-time mental health support specialist at a residential treatment home in Eugene, Oregon. Morgan intends to pursue a PhD in musicology in the coming years while continuing to develop their performance career. All right. Hi, Morgan.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Pretty good. Welcome to the show. Where are we talking to you from?
So I'm currently living in Eugene, Oregon.
Wow.
And I'm like living here essentially for a gap year. But yeah, coming to you from the West Coast.
Nice. Oregon's not a bad place to be.
I love it.
All right, so we're going to jump right into things, but we're going to start a little bit light. Why did you start playing trumpet?
So I was always interested in music, and there was always this kind of affinity for it. I sang in my church choir, and my family could just kind of tell, like, just shove the kid in the music and, like, they'll like it kind of a thing. And that's where it started. But I never expected that instrumental music was going to be my path. I started on alto saxophone as a kind of a bargain. I said, I want to play alto sax, and my parents made a deal with me. If I quit Girl Scouts, I could do alto sax, but I had to choose one. And it was the easiest decision of my life. And played alto sax for a year, but I remember playing this like stupid middle school arrangement of Pictures at an Exhibition. Really not stupid, it's like actually a decent arrangement, but I heard the trumpet solo and I said, I want to play that. And I told my director that, and he said, well, you need to start playing the trumpet because like that is not for alto saxophone.
Smart director.
Okay. And I started playing and realized very quickly that trumpet was easier, but it was easier to, like, of course, technically easier, but more importantly, it was easier to connect with others with the instrument. And I stuck with it, and yeah, it just kind of happened that way. But Pictures at an Exhibition.
That's a good way to start the trumpet.
That's one of my all-time favorite pieces.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so good, and I've had the honor of playing it, and honestly, just to be in that ensemble playing it with people, it's thrilling.
I bet.
Absolutely. And what inspired you to pursue trumpet beyond high school as like a more of a professional thing?
So I actually went to college for law and political science, and I had never taken a private trumpet lesson before. But I took my first private trumpet lesson the summer before I started. I had auditioned just for a scholarship. I figured if I made all-state band, maybe I could get some money out of the school, and I did. And I also got free lessons. And I went to my first trumpet lesson, and my teacher was very confused because in some areas I was extremely proficient, like college level and beyond. And in other areas, is I was elementary school level. And he explained to me, like, you could pursue this if you wanted to, but also you have a lot of work to do if you want to. And I liked the challenge. And I started taking lessons, and I decided through that and my musical theater experiences, like, music was going to be a minor at least. And I changed to a major once I started taking regular trumpet lessons. Then I found myself hating my political science classes. They were taught well and the content was good, but I didn't like the crowd and I didn't feel connected to the material. Meanwhile, in my music classes, I loved theory, loved musicology, and trumpet, it was just this constant challenge and like working against myself and no one else. And I loved that. And dropped political science, took on trumpet, and worked on all of the elementary school stuff, which are, you know, a little better now, but it was a really fun challenge that I continue to just see where the road takes me. So it's great.
I love that your passion for trumpet is largely due to the intrinsic challenge instead of the extrinsic competitive thing that we see a lot with trumpet players, but really all musicians. They tend to go for the competition against others, but I love that you focus on the internal challenges.
Yeah, I love the positive approach to improvement.
I mean, to be very blunt, the competitive thing, that was a big drive in high school. And that got me continuing to play and getting better. But that didn't get me to want to major in it. It was the, oh, wait, I sound like way better now after practicing this Getchell for a week. What can I do with another Getchell? And then just working through the books and working through my Clarks and just developing my technique, but then also exploring the wealth of repertoire, and then also realizing the holes and wanting to plug them in and fix them, and continuing that process today. And when I say holes, I don't just mean the technical, like my own playing, but also the holes in the industry where work has not been done. So the lack of repertoire written by female musicians, composers, and the repertoire that is there that's just not being played ever. So finding ways, and beyond just female composers, but we stick to the same couple of pieces. Why? I don't get it. And wanting to take that challenge on.
So what is your favorite part about the trumpet community?
I never get asked a question like this. I love this. My favorite part, these are passionate people. And I am one of those people, like, I am passionate to a fault. And often like, if I'm in a room of strangers, they'll be confused by the passion. I was recently called by a supervisor, quote, on the verge of frighteningly enthusiastic.
And
that's a mixed compliment there.
But honestly, when I thought about it, I'd like take a second and think about, what does that mean to me? And I realized it's after talking to a coworker too, and just kind of doing a peer feedback little session with my friends, I realized that what she meant by that was I put 110% into everything I do. And I don't know any other way, and I don't want any other way. And that is the trumpet community. We put everything in it, all of our heart and soul, our passion, maybe not always the practice, but that passion is there. And we love the music we play. And when I'm talking to other trumpet players, there's never any sort of like missing passion or anything like that. And I love that.
Yeah, I found you rarely find a trumpet player who wishes they played another instrument, at least in place of trumpet. Like many who want to play other instruments in addition, but never people who wish they were not playing trumpet and instead were playing another instrument.
Usually it's the reverse, like they started somewhere else and ended up on trumpet.
Yep.
So, I mean, you mentioned a few of these before we started recording, but also kind of in your answers for other stuff. What are things that you think the trumpet community could work on, and how do you think we should approach that?
There are a couple things. The biggest one is willingness to say, I was wrong. I could have done that better. I'm sorry. Let me think about that. Taking space and time to acknowledge imperfection and to really not just seek out growth for a position or to like earn something, but rather to seek out personal growth and become a better human being. That's something I loved about Blue Lake. And I think the biggest lesson I took away from Blue Lake, working there for 4 years, being principal trumpet there for 4 years as a staff member, the people there in the trumpet section and beyond we all really wanted to become better people. And it took a lot for me to kind of figure out how to apply that, because I knew I wanted to constantly be bettering myself. I'm like one of those therapy children. I've been going to therapy for a long time for some mental health stuff, but also working on just self-improvement my whole life has become a part of who I am and my journey. And I found myself finding it really easy to connect with people in that kind of a way at a place like Blue Lake. And in a lot of trumpet sections I'm in, that might be there, but it's not the main goal. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, my teachers in my graduate program, which I actually wound up choosing because there was such an emphasis on personal growth, like turning down some really big name programs specifically because I wanted to work on that personal growth. They kept reminding me, anything can happen. We are impermanent. I could lose the ability to play tomorrow. My teacher lost the ability to play. We have to acknowledge that there's more to it than just playing a piece of metal. There's music, and there's also who we are as people. And I want to see trumpet sections that honor that, value that, and put that first. That said, I've been very blessed to, in the past couple of years, have found a lot of situations like that. The University of Oregon Trumpet Studio was a huge one, and I'm really just so glad that I was in that community for 3 years.
Sounds like a big shout out there.
Huge shout out. Like, seriously, like, it didn't feel like a studio, it felt like a family.
That's a good feeling.
I really am glad that I chose that school because it was the right fit for me at that point in my life. I also think that like Blue Lake and like a lot of the smaller communities that I found have been great, but I don't feel at the ITG conferences. I have not been back to an ITG conference because of that. I felt very uncomfortable at my first one. That's not to say that everyone there is not focusing on that self-growth, but I don't think it's emphasized enough by individuals. I see ITG, I see NTC, I see all of these like organizations working towards that as a larger group, but I don't see enough individuals going up to people and saying, so what are you passionate about in life? Or how are you doing? How do you feel today? Or like, talk to me about your favorite, I don't know, just like casual conversations where we get to know each other as people. It's a lot more of, so what mouthpiece do you play on? Right. And what are you learning about me when you find out that I play on a 1.5C? That I am basic? I mean, because I guess I am, but like, there's so much more to me than my equipment. There's so much more to me than how well I can play Goldenberg and Schmuel on first try. It's more than just a bag of tricks. We are all people at the end of the day. Another answer to your question, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Absolutely.
So I'm a musicologist, and I've done a lot of work in the area of trumpet, specifically in my undergrad, and have been unfortunately quite astounded by the information that I found out from my research. That said, I like to think that we're pushing into a different area, but I don't feel like people like me are really quite finding that representation yet. I'm non-binary. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I am female-bodied, and I'm a lesbian. I don't feel like I have a ton of people to look up to. I have a lot of like people who like fit a pocket or two, but I think about my friends who also don't fit that and are also being treated like outcasts in society, and how these settings are perpetuating that, keeping the spaces white, keeping the spaces cis and heteronormative, keeping the spaces from welcoming in folks with different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I really don't think it's talked about enough in the trumpet community. I was lucky to have a lot of these conversations when I was doing my grad school search, and that was helpful. That was moving. That said, I don't see enough of it in the professional realm. I also don't think it's talked about on the national, international level enough. Yes, at the end of the day, it's about how you play, but that accessibility and getting your foot in the door, that's the starting point. And when we're not creating a space where kids can feel like, okay, I can play the trumpet even though I am not a boy. I can play the trumpet even though all of my heroes that I like listening to are white, or like most of them. People, having people that look like us make us want to do that. It creates a realm of accessibility, and we do not have enough of that in the trumpet industry right now, in my opinion. And the conversations could be more plentiful, more fruitful, and could really get at the core of the issues with trumpet and its history. The fact that it was a male-dominated space, the fact that it's rooted in colonialism, the fact that trumpet continues to be a male-dominated space. I don't know if the statistic is still 97%, but my most recent research project came up with 97% of top 20 U.S. orchestras, the seats are held by male-identifying people. And in terms of race, I don't know the numbers. In terms of socioeconomic backgrounds, I don't know the numbers, but that's enough for me to raise an eyebrow and say, what are we doing to really get at the core and not just say we include women and then play women's music? Like, no, there's more to it than that. What are we doing to make the spaces accessible to everybody and then truly achieve equity when we're in them?
Not just appeasing with a name on a program, but actually opening up a conversation and dialogue with the community.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I see little bits of it here and there, and that's helpful. That's moving. Let's move further. Let's do more.
Absolutely. One of my favorite recent mediums, I guess, formats for discussion has been, and I believe you're a part of it, the female trans non-binary trumpeters on Facebook. There's a really awesome group for that. And the conversations they've been opening up have been just absolutely wonderful. I'd love to see that translate into the mainstream trumpet groups as well, because just the topics they discuss are important.
I really hope that that is a starting point. And I mean, one of my dreams is to like go to ITG and present on gender diversity or colonialism in the trumpet. I don't quite feel ready to do that, given the fact that I only have 2 professional jobs right now and I'm barely in the industry. But like, I would love to see people who have that power and that authority start to bring those conversations to the limelight and get at the core of what's important and what we really do need to address and discuss now, not later, now, for our kids, for our students, for ourselves.
Listen up, ITG. Some important stuff to start including in your conferences.
Yeah.
Well, as trumpeters working in the public arena, it is considered part of the job to be ambassadors of the arts and of just culture in general to the community. What do you say about this obligation of being an ambassador, and what do you do to contribute?
So when I think ambassador, I think representing something, and I don't think of myself as representing necessarily a community or representing a type of music. I think of myself as representing my morals and how I bring them to the table. And my morals revolve around all music being valid, important, and capable of expressing human emotion. And I try to take that and bring it to all spaces. So being a classical musician, going into spaces where classical music isn't the focus, and find ways to talk about classical music in a way that it is accessible. Western art music opening up its doors and not just being stuffy and sticking to the same couple of composers or the same couple of like model people that we look up to, but still honoring them. Like, we can't just throw all of that away. I don't believe in that. But I also think that changing how we think about things like the term masterwork or the way that we put certain individuals on pedestals, and I think all of that, I want to be an ambassador for trying other things and for honoring different musics and music making, different ways of playing the trumpet. One of my favorite parts of grad school was realizing how different all of my peers and I like played, like the timbres, the approaches, the music that we liked and the ways that we played. And teaching really helped me learn this too, and continues to help me think through this. If we are to be ambassadors, I think that we need to start from the moral place of what music truly is. And for me, music is that tool of expression, and it means something different to all of us and different cultures. And the more that we embrace that, we're not standing for one thing and putting things on pedestals and perpetuating hegemonic structures.
And that's I think that starts with education. That's one of the big things that we need.
I agree.
Not just education on what is out there, but I think one of the 2 important subjects that we don't see enough stress on is ethnomusicology and gender studies in music.
Yes.
And if we were to open up the discussions by educating ourselves more on those two subjects, we would definitely have a more informed and probably more productive discussion.
Right.
As an ethnomusicologist and as someone who just got a certificate in women's gender sexuality studies, I could not agree more. But I am extremely biased. But that said, I feel like taking those courses and learning through those lenses made me a better musician.
Oh, absolutely.
And a better creator.
So when you're working in the music field, you have, as you've touched on so far, you've got a lot of opportunities to be a leader. It's something that just spoke to me a lot, that sticks in my mind, is like, if there's people who look like me, I'm going to want to do this. So how do you approach being that kind of leader in the trumpet community?
I mean, and this is going to look different for everybody. One of the things that I am comfortable doing that is not necessarily what everyone's comfortable doing is I'm very open about my story. I talk about the fact that I didn't have a lesson until I was in college. I talk about the fact that I'm non-binary and queer and don't leave any of that out. Unless it's truly unsafe, and then I have to modify. I talk about the mistakes I make and I say, hey, I was wrong about that, or that's new to me. Thank you for telling me that. I try to model the behaviors that I would want my younger self to be like actively doing as like middle schooler, high schooler, college student, now that I'm a teacher and post master's degrees. But I think like another big thing is talking about feelings and emotions and frustrations and being able to be that full person and show people what that can look like and how it really affects our music making. Certainly like to a point we need to keep emotion out of it and play to the piece. Like orchestral excerpts, I cannot play Mahler 5 and make it sound joyful. It's just, no. That said, I can activate some of those emotions and talk about like what it's evoking for me. I can create a character and dive really deeply into that and access so much more if I get there. And I'm willing to go into the emotion that we often kind of leave out of the conversation. We keep kind of trivial. I also think that the acknowledgement of mistakes is huge in leadership. Showing folks that we are all human. And yeah, like there are some players who don't make a ton of technical mistakes, but like what else like is going on? There are people who like, who are, I don't know, like we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And if we're acknowledging those weaknesses, we become better through that awareness and practicing those mistakes, saying, yeah, I have room for growth. And suddenly our students are not afraid to say, oh, I made a mistake, or just like laughing it off, or it's not about the ego anymore. It's all about getting better. And it goes back to that point I made earlier about being driven by yourself and your own personal growth. When we emphasize that, I really do think that it is so much easier for us to play without getting in our heads and create a community that we all want to exist in.
Wow.
Well said. Well, do you have any words of advice for new trumpeters, people who are picking it up for the first time or for the first time in a while?
Listen as much as you practice. I mean, I don't really have an explanation for that. I just really think that that's a huge component that isn't talked about enough. And don't just listen to the standard recordings. Listen to everything and listen to pop music and learn to play songs. Play Happy Birthday in all 12 keys. That's something that I was required to play Happy Birthday at my audition at the University of Oregon. And
that's a smart thing to learn.
it was brilliant, because what it caused me to do is like I had to think on the spot about my own like understanding of tonality, but then also like just let my ear do the work. And when we're listening to recordings, learning our simple songs, our fundamentals improve and our own musicality skyrockets. I also think it's really important to be listening to a variety of genres. So when I'm playing trumpet, I'm playing mostly classical, orchestral, chamber, and off-the-wall stuff, which I kind of specialize in right now, which is strange. My favorite is stuffing dog toy squeakers in my trumpet and then using that for tonal effects. I can certainly send some recordings, and I will show examples of that to you at some point.
Please do.
Yeah, I certainly will. But then at the same time, I am a researcher in popular music. So, like, while I'm playing, like, you know, your Mahler and your like, I don't know, like XYZ orchestral stuff, like Bartok Concerto for Orchestra, I'm also writing about Janelle Monáe and like looking to do a dissertation on, quite possibly, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it yet, but drag queens and their vocal performances.
Oh, that would be so cool.
It would be a dream come true if I could do that and then interview everybody. But that said, like, I'm gaining just as much musically listening to, like, Nina West sing children's songs in drag as I am listening to the Phil Smith Orchestral Excerpt CD. Now, is it going to serve a different purpose? Yes, of course. But I think there's something to be said about different types of music making inspiring different types of music making. And I really try to capitalize upon that in my teaching. And for new students, listen to what you want to listen to, play what you want to play, and base your goals off of, like, what's required there, but also let all the other stuff influence your playing too. There's nothing wrong with listening to pop and finding ways to extract details and information and then apply that to the way that you're expressing. Context is key, of course, and knowing the contextual makeup of everything that you're playing, but also don't just be inspired by the same stuff. You won't develop a diverse palette. Also, it helps marketability quite a bit when you're able to play all sorts of different styles and genres. So, yeah.
And at the very least, it's interesting to play and think about standard orchestral repertoire through the lens of something completely different, like heavy metal or pop music. Yep. That's been my thing lately. It's like, all right, I'm going to listen to a bunch of non-trumpet music and let it improve my trumpet playing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So do you have any, like, funny stories that have ever happened in lessons or rehearsals? It looks like you do.
So I studied with Brian McWhorter and Sarah Beans in my graduate program.
Oh my goodness.
And like, I have so many stories. Obviously gonna try to pick like more appropriate ones. Like, because we just go there. I mean, my favorite lesson story would probably, in addition to me, like, just kind of like Brian and I would just talk and we would start getting sarcastic with each other. And then I would always trump him with, well, you're a cis white male. Just to be funny. And he would start laughing and I would win. Like, it wasn't a competition, but it was, and I won. And like always that would, like, it would just come up, but like not in like, I'm not here to just like tell all cis white men to stop talking. But at the same time, there's merit to bringing that up, and he is the kind of person who gets it and like was down to joke around about that, but also listen. I have so many studio stories. Oh my goodness. I think my favorite one, and I actually still haven't talked to her about this. So I played a masterclass for Marie Speziali recently, and I have been waiting for this moment for years. I met her at my audition at Oklahoma State and talked to her after I chose to go to U of O, and was at the IWBC conference and was playing there. And like, we had a whole plan for her to come to University of Oregon. We finally got to meet after like the COVID. She never got to visit, all of that. It was virtual. And I had a full orchestral excerpt lineup for her. And I played Down the Hummel, felt really good. And then got to my excerpts and pull out my C and pull out my mouthpiece out of my pocket. I am a pocket full of mouthpieces kind of person. I was, at least. And I put my, so I use a different setup for E-flat playing, and stuck my Bach 1.5 in the C and went to blow, and nothing. all back pressure, nothing. And okay, so let me fix my valves. I had been having valve issues, and I even told my one friend, hey, just a heads up, I'm having valve issues, and if like this comes up, I might actually need to borrow your horn. Is that cool? And we were all ready to go. And I almost felt like I had like set myself up for disaster because now my valves weren't working. So I say, hey, Cindy, can I borrow your trumpet? And I grab her trumpet and I hand my trumpet to Sarah. She's like messing with the valves, trying to make it work. And I move my mouthpiece to Sydney's trumpet, go to play, same thing.
Oh no.
So Sarah hands my horn back. She's like, the valves are fine. I stick my mouthpiece back in it, nothing. And Marie says to me, okay, what's your plan? And I say, okay, well, we're just going to do this whole audition on my Curry 5BC, which is my E flat setup. So there I was playing Mahler 5 on a Curry 5BC, which sounded how it sounded. And then Pines of Rome, which is like my jam. Like that is the excerpt that I champion. That and Goldenberg and Schmuel. Like why, I don't know, but those are my two. And I get through the list. I'm not happy with my sound. I wasn't big. It wasn't projecting what I wanted to. And the intonation was weird because it was the wrong mouthpiece. And the end of the masterclass, the moment Marie signs off, I am cursing up a storm, mad at the trumpet, trying to figure out what happened. And someone yells to me, Morgan, is there something in the mouthpiece? So I've like my whole life struggled with acid reflux and have to take an over-the-counter every day. When I woke up like 30 minutes before the master class, I stuffed the pill in my pocket and ran to the music building and never took it. I stuck my mouthpiece cleaner in the mouthpiece and out pops a Nexium. I was so embarrassed that I still haven't contacted Marie and told her, hey, like, this happened. Also, like, can I get a lesson? Because I feel like I learned a ton and we were still able to get a lot done. But also, I want to know what I need to work on when I'm playing my best and playing on the right equipment. But, oh, my gosh. And that story will probably be told for a long time in the trumpet studio at U of O. And I deserve it.
Well, heads up, Marie, if you're listening. That's what happened.
I'll have to send this to her. Oh, my goodness. And Sarah, my teacher, she could not stop laughing. And, like, oh my goodness. The thing is, though, it was such a Morgan story. And in a lot of ways, like, I wouldn't have it any other way because that's the kind of quirky stuff that I do that makes me the kind of person that I am. But at the same time, really, Morgan? Like, but yeah, that happened.
It must be a Morgan thing, because I could see that happening to me too.
It very well might be. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So there's a story for you.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, is there anything you'd like to add? Any last points that you didn't really get to throw in here, or
kind of a random point, but I think important. It's so helpful to do things beyond trumpet, and beyond music necessarily. I think that what's really like driving me right now musically is my work in the mental health field. And before I did mental health work, it was my work in religious diversity, and also my work in diversity, equity, and inclusion, like just on committees. And what that did was it made me more capable of being the leader I wanted to be and the leader I needed to see in this industry. Now, I mean, I've tons of work to do, and I don't claim to be like the spokesperson of DEI or religious diversity or mental health, but working outside of music gives me this inspiration to bring to the table when I'm making music. And it also makes, it ensures that I am not getting tired of music, to have other things that motivate me. And yeah, it means practicing a little less. It means not always being as ready as I want to be for, say, like a lesson or an audition, but it makes me a better player. And it keeps me sane, it keeps me humble, and it keeps me human. I am like kind of in this like strange spot right now in my life where I'm trying to decide what's next. And it sounds like my next move is going to be pursuing a PhD in musicology while continuing my professional playing career. But I think that it's so important for us to leave the music building and go do other stuff.
Absolutely.
And we don't talk about that enough. I remember when I was teaching at the University of Oregon, I would remind my students, go do something else. Like, don't forget to do that. Don't forget to go hang out with your friends, play Mario Kart with your friends, go volunteer for an organization you care about, get a job that has nothing to do with music for a year, take a gap year. I mean, I love what I'm doing right now in my gap year. I mean, granted, it hasn't technically started yet. Like, I'm like a month and a half in, and I'm already lost without schoolwork. I don't know what to do, but it's so important for our souls to not just do the same thing over and over again. And we don't talk about that enough. And I think part of that's the competitivity thing and like this work culture, this overwork culture. But my goodness, it is fuel.
Not everybody's musical journey is different, and sometimes that musical journey means taking a couple side routes to really inform yourself and expand your horizons.
Yep.
Yeah,
I love that.
I've watched I've watched people's mental health tank because all they did was practice, then go home, sleep, and repeat. You gotta get outside that bubble
That
of the
is
music
not
building.
a sustainable life.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any upcoming projects or projects in the works you would like to talk about, or anything you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, so right now I'm working with a couple of different groups. I'm really excited about the work that one of my ensembles, the Eugene Difficult Music Eugene Difficult Music Ensemble. We just did the Eugene Garbage Project. So we created an entire multimedia concert experience using only garbage.
Ooh, I love
like
that.
entirely garbage. So I spent hours, and my colleagues spent hours recording, banging things with cardboard and bowing, like using an actual, like, I think it was like a viola bow on styrofoam. And I was hated by Snapchat for taking footage of that at one point. Like, I just would get all this footage together. We all put it together, and my colleague JP, he turned it into this composition, and it was performed by an artist named Emma Rose Lynn, and we had that experience in May, but it's still accessible, and the ensemble's still up and running, doing all sorts of things from Pauline Oliveros to Julius Eastman, and all sorts of composers who thought outside the box, think outside the box, and we're trying to expand what music making looks like, and who music making is for. It's not just for people who go to school and major in music, it's for everybody. And I'm really excited about what we're doing there. That's a recent project, but it was really impactful on my musical journey. The Oregon Mozart Players, I am one of the trumpet players in the ensemble, but then I also am the librarian, stage manager, and the essentially like education and community outreach coordinator. And we are playing at Eugene Pride. So really excited about that. I won't be able to play on the concert, but I will certainly be able to stand at the booth. I designed stickers yesterday. I'm very excited about this particular ensemble being so active in supporting the LGBTQ plus community. And beyond that, I think like I'm most excited for a year, possibly longer, but a year of playing when I want to play and seeing what projects pop up, from sub work and playing in my professional ensembles all the way to just like jamming out and doing things because I want to. And I have not spent enough time doing that in my life. And I'm really excited about taking that time for me and playing the trumpet for me. And I don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come up, but I'm very excited about it. And I'll post to my website and keep everybody posted as I posted. That was there, no pun intended, but that yeah. And I look forward to just seeing where the year takes me. But for the first time, I don't have this laundry list of projects coming up. So yeah, I'm just excited about the future and the fact that I don't quite know what it holds, but it definitely
that's really
holds
cool.
music.
I love that. One of the cool things about the people we're interviewing for this show is that we catch a lot of people in the midpoints of figuring themselves out and figuring out what they want to do, and so nothing is defined. And that's the cool part is like I said, no musical journey is the same. And I am so excited to see what happens with yours. Thank you so much for talking with us today. I think this has been such a wonderful interview. I cannot wait to see everybody's responses to it when we put it out. And I'm wishing the best of luck with everything you've got going on and everything you're looking forward to doing in the next however many years.
Thank you. And same to you both. And congratulations on this project. This is exciting and thrilling to just see folks considering the positive, considering the humor that should exist in the trumpet industry that would really, truly make it a better place. And I am very honored to have been a part of this project.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of course. Of course.
Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Morgan Bates for their time and awesome interview. We all had lots of fun chatting about trumpet. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, etc. to support our podcast and be updated when we release next week's full interview with Dr. Alex Wilson. All the music in this episode was recorded and provided by Morgan Bates. The intro music is Fanfare for the Women, composed by Libby Larson, and the outro music is Someone to Watch Over Me, composed by George and Ira Gershwin.
To keep updated on Morgan's musical journey, you can follow them on Instagram at MMBATES and on Twitter at Morgan Lisley. You can also visit their website at www.morganbates.com or just search and message them on Facebook.
Thanks again for tuning in. We hope to have you back next time. And remember, always play 2 cents sharp.